Well, hello, learners. Welcome to DrawClass on this incredibly rainy day here in Brooklyn, New York. It was already pretty rainy, and as soon as I started the intro song, it just started coming down. A perfect day to just hang out and do some drawing. Welcome everybody. Thanks for being here. Thanks for supporting Drawfee on Patreon. And thanks for taking the time to do a little drawing practice with me. Welcome. Welcome everyone. At this point, I think you all know the deal with DrawClass when I'm hosting it, these practice streams. Um we're just starting off with our blank canvas like we do. I'm just using simple hard round pressure size, pressure opacity brush here. In Photoshop, you can use whatever drawing program you like, or you can use pen and paper, pencil and paper, whatever you want. The point is to be, comfortable. And I don't know if y'all can hear the rain outside, but it's really going. So it's adding to that cozy feeling. But anyway, here we are. Here we are, welcome. First thing we're gonna do is just get this intimidating blank screen out of the way by doing some scribbles. Just scribbling on it, just remembering that drawing, we're just moving our hands. We're moving our arm. We're making marks. And nothing bad's gonna happen while we do that. There's nothing to be afraid of. We're just gonna do our best. Whatever our best is today. We're gonna do our best for today with whatever energy we have. And that's gonna be plenty. The fact that we already decided to sit down and do a little practice, that's the hardest part. For me anyway. Once you make that choice, everything else just flows from there, you know? And for me, just looking at the blank screen can be intimidating, so we always just do a couple rounds of scribbling, just getting comfy with the feeling of the drawing implement, the pen, the pencil, the stylus in our hand, and making those marks. And you can do this if you practice every day, or if it's been a while. If you're new to drawing, or if you've been drawing for a while. Doesn't matter. Still is nice to just remember you're in control. You can make whatever marks you want on the page. And it's fine. And we're just having fun, you know? I put out a call in the Discord for people to submit stuff they wanted to work on today. I saw thumbnailing, line art practice, and shading. So I think we'll be working on those things today. I've got a few ideas about what we can do with those, but if anybody has other ideas while the class is going, just let me know in chat. And of course, feel free to share anything you draw today that you're particularly proud of. But there's zero pressure. If at the end of this 2-hour session you haven't drawn anything that you ever want to look at again, that's fine. You still took the time to practice, and so it was worthwhile. was a worthwhile time spent. Some more little doodles, and then we'll do one more and really get weird with it, with the shapes. Get wiggly with it. You know? Just warming up. Just getting comfortable. Making marks. Making marks. That's all we're doing. And thanks again for being here, everybody. Whether you're watching live or watching the VOD, you know, I always say this, but there's so many incredible resources online. Much more skilled artists than myself have offered all sorts of lessons and easily digestible tidbits of wisdom you can find. All I'm doing is keeping you company for a little while we practice together. That's all I'm doing. I'm not teaching you anything that you can't learn somewhere else, you know? And you can always take anything you learn here and practice on your own. But sometimes it's helpful to have a buddy, you know? So that's what I've got to offer is I'm here to be your buddy. I'm here to encourage you. And we're just going to do it together. We're going to make mistakes together. We're going to make some stuff that maybe we're like, "Huh, I don't know why I did it that way." And that's okay. You know? There are probably way more disciplined teachers out there you can find. But just the fact that you came here and you want to work, you want to put in a little bit of effort to draw, get a little better, to get a little more comfortable doing this silly little craft, creating things. I think that's great. Doesn't matter how much experience you have, how confident you are. You're here, you're doing it, and that is to be commended. So I commend you. I commend you, and I recommend you. I recommend that you practice as much as you feel you can. I always feel like I could stand to practice more, you know? It's hard. Sometimes you get busy, sometimes you just don't have the energy. I get it. So I appreciate at least once every 4 months I've got to practice. I've got to practice because y'all signed up for the class. So thanks for keeping me honest, you know? I appreciate it. Okay. All right. Getting nice and warmed up. Um and now we'll just do a little shape draw. Little shape draw. Draw some shapes. Make some little guys in those shapes. And that'll lead into our first thumbnailing exercise. We'll just do, you know, make some shapes. Don't have to think about them too much. That's Kermit. We're not going to make that Kermit, but, you know. Sometimes you make a shape and it turns out to be Kermit shaped. That's okay. I don't know what these shapes are. All right. Let's take these shapes and let's make some drawings out of them, you know? Get that creative part of the brain warmed up. We've got the physical act of drawing warmed up. Now we're just going to, practice looking and seeing and being creative here. What could this first shape be? What are we seeing here? Don't know. Got this little point. It'd be like a horn. Maybe it's like some sort of like a rhino or a dino, a rhino dino. Give him a little eye there. Yeah, it's like a little triceratops sort of guy. Can add to the shape, why not? Just a little starting guide. Saying, hey, what's going on? Like a triceratops sort of guy. Be whatever, you know? This is sort of a messed up number 3 I drew. Don't know why I did it that way, but that was the shape. That was the shape I made. It's sort of given like elephant seal almost. If this is the schnoz and like going like got sort of a big ol' schnoz over here. I don't know. That's one option. Doesn't have to be that. Could also be like ooh, I don't know. So this is the part we got to warm up. It's okay. And this here could be like a sort of a Snoopy. Sort of a Snoopy dog. He's got his little paws here. Maybe he's got like a really big tail for some reason. Let's see. Don't have to overthink it. Yeah. Just got like it's like a really big bushy tail. Like a raccoon dog. It's fun. Why not? You know? It can be anything. Just reminding ourselves that we can draw whatever we want. Maybe he's got like raccoon eyes too. Or like cute little guy. I'm not gonna make this Kermit, even though that's what I drew. I don't know why I drew it that way, but my brain was like, draw Kermit. Be like a bird. Be like a bird over here. Little beak. Something like this. It's got like a sort of a pompadour haircut. Pretty cool. Yeah, something like that. What did I make here? What did I do here? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness gracious. Okay. We can for sure use the negative space for something as well. It just looks like a weird building. Like, I mean, this looks sort of like an arm going into like a shoulder, like he's leaning forward a little. But then what's the rest of it? Then what's the rest of it, Nathan? Don't worry about it. We'll get there. This could be another elbow. Sort of like... some sort of creature with two arms that just come out of the head. He's like doing like a sit here. Here his feet. It's just sort of like yeah, it's just sort of like a guy, so, you know, old arm heads. His arms come out where his ears are. And he just sort of sits like this. I don't know. Going like this, maybe. Got some little feets. It's like... sort of like, oh no. This is just how I look. Why not? So weird looking. Bobby? Is that you? Yeah, it's sort of a blemmy. Sort of a blemmy type guy. This looks like, I immediately see just sort of like a lizard. Sort of lizard and over. Oop, careful. Got like a big ol' sort of floppy set of spikes. Sort of come around. That. One of them like, something like this. No, that's one option. What else could it be? What else could it be? Could just be like an angry frog. You know? Something like this. It's like, hey! His tongue. Could be just like a bottom row of teeth. Something like this. There we go. Getting somewhere. Just play around with it. You don't have to settle on your first idea. You can just sort of mess around until you get something that you like. And if you don't like anything, you can move on. You know, this is just a warm-up exercise. We're not just trying to warm up those creative juices in your brain. this. Why is he so mad? He looks like he's having trouble. Having trouble. I won't say. I won't say what he's having trouble doing. Now, what is this? What is this one? Hmm. Mm-mm-mm. It could just be a guy's face. Like, you know. Like, hi. You like my face? Hmm. Here. I don't know. You get it. You get the idea. That's a bong. YouTube lets you say constipation. Okay. All right. Warmed up. Feeling warm. Got some ideas out. So, thumbnailing. Had to look up what that meant because I'm so YouTube brained that when I think of a thumbnail, I just think of like for the episode. For the episode we post, what are we going to make the thumbnail image for people to click on? But thumbnailing, it's about composition, about character design. It's about just readability, drawn real small. You know, drawn real small. So like, you know, say you want to draw you want to draw a character, but you don't want to get caught up in the details. You just sort of you work real small and just sort of focus on the silhouette. Like, you know, how do you want your character to look? Do you want him to be sort of like a big burly guy? Want it to be very readable. Sort of what we're working with. That sort of thing. Working real small. You can use it for character design, you can use it for composition. You know, you want to that's a butt, but you know, pretend it's not. Pretend it's like, you know, some rolling hills. How you want to frame your scene. Maybe you got like a house in the foreground. And some like trees. You know, it forces you to really think about composition and readability. That sort of thing. But what we're going to do is this exercise that I found from. Let's credit where credit's due. I don't know where this person found it, but I found it from them. YouTube channel called YouTube channel called Draw Sessions. So you can check them out. And what we're going to do is we're going to take some lines here. Pretty. This. They, of course, are working just with pen and paper. So I'm going to try my best not to erase. If you do erase, that's okay. Just gonna, very similar to the shape drawing challenge, but we've got these sort of baselines that we're working with. Down. That, and then for each one, we're just gonna draw 5 lines. And if you were here for, excuse me. If you were here for my the last draw class that I hosted, we did a lot of gesture drawing, so you remember just a quick refresher. 3 types of lines. We've got our straight lines, our C-shaped lines, and our S-shaped lines. Icus. Icus. And what we're going to do for each of these is we're just going to do 5 lines. It can be any combination of those. So, you know, they can just sort of go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're just going to do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, and you can make them however you want. 3, maybe this one's all straight lines. 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're gonna do something similar to the shape challenge. We're just gonna take these baselines and we're gonna try and create forms out of them, and just see what it inspires. And we're gonna focus on just sort of readability. So here, excuse me, you know, we can add to them. This sort of sphere shape sticks out to me. And then what? And then what, Nathan? We can you know, we can be a little bit more sketchy with these ones. Really try and find something like this shape here. Made like a sort of a cross shape. It's pretty dynamic. What does it make me think of? Sort of like crossed blades almost. Like maybe this is like some sort of sharp protrusion here. Maybe it's like and then maybe it's like this is the, okay, I'm seeing sort of like maybe this is like the back. It's got like a horn here. And then maybe this is like sort of a front sort of leg. Got like some sort of like this, and then this can go into being like a back leg here. And as we reach the ground, we want to darken, you know, let the give the thing we're creating some sort of weight, you know? Create these sorts of shapes in here. See what we're working with. Yeah. Something like this maybe. Just sort of give it some shading as we go. we're just going to assume for our purposes that these things are lit from the top. Maybe, maybe this is like form here. It's got some sort of like armor, got like this sort of scaly pattern. I don't know. Sort of an alien creature. A little like, add some shading to each of these. You just sort of let your imagination guide you a little bit. See what you can come up with. It doesn't need to make a ton of sense. But see what you can find. See what you can find in there. Okay, this one I did more sort of S shapes, a little bit more flowy. Sort of got this like curving, sort of undulating pattern here. It's almost like sort of a jellyfish. Sort of it looks like if we continue this around here, these are like tentacles almost. You can really decide which bits you want to latch onto and use. As your baseline. Maybe we've almost got like sort of like a face in here. Like these could be like eyes. This could be like a mouth of some kind. Very sort of strange sort of creature. Because jellyfish, they typically don't have eyes. What is this guy's deal? It's got like some bits coming off the top as well. Extend those. Doesn't have to make a ton of sense. Just sort of trying to make it read as something. I don't know why, but I kind of want to give it like a mammalian little, like, yeah, maybe he's actually really cute. What if it's like a jellyfish bear? Why not? I don't know. Just try and see what happens. Little jellyfish bear guy. Here. This sort of looks like a wizard that's running, almost. Like a wizrobe, sort of, from Zelda. He's got his cape sort of like billowing out, cloak sort of billowing out. He's got like, maybe he's got just little legs. Gearing up to cast a big spell. That this. Cool. Just sort of darken in the bits that you want to emphasize. Big sleeve. That. This I'm immediately seeing like a sort of like a guy's face. This be like a brow sort of deal. Eyes here. Of like a big ol' head. This is just sort of like a head on legs. Got it. We got another Blemmy. Deal with his mouth shape here. Got like hands up, like, hey. I don't know. Like that. I'm interested to see what y'all come up with for this as well. In doubt, just darken it in. It is just dark down here. He doesn't have a mouth. Sort of looks like that. This I'm seeing sort of like a horse, some sort of like horse-like creature, like a long neck, or maybe it's more like a rooster almost. Yeah, it's like a bird. Big sort of tail, sort of thing. Just like it's got spikes on his back, like a basilisk, some sort. It's kind of cool. It sort of gets easier the more you do it. Start getting your brain starts getting better at recognizing shapes and giving those shapes meaning, you know? Kind of cool. It's kind of cool actually. You know? There's plenty of time to draw from reference, but sometimes just working that imagination muscle is really useful, because ultimately, like, even if you're working from reference, you're still translating what you're seeing into these abstract shapes and lines. Being able to do that is, I think, a valuable skill to work on. This could also be a bird, couldn't it? Let's see. Sort of like shape here. It doesn't even need to like be like a person doing like a dance, sort of alien creature. Standing like this, arms outstretched. Yeah. Sorts of loopies things. Maybe it's another. We just keep drawing blemmies. I see this as like a nose almost. Like, hello? A little off center. It's okay. Very abstract. Like it. Here. Got here. We've got open space to work with. Standing out to me. Sort of seeing like in here, and then this is giving haunch to me. Feels like a creature that's like got like a big ol' haunch back here. Sort of similar to that first one we drew. So what's everything else? It's like front. Is it like a snout, maybe? Big sort of like this. Then it gets cut off. Not really like the front of a creature. And it's also that's where it ends. I don't know. This could be like a chin. Got its mouth open like ah, or like a frog. Who's to say? This last one. Similar to this bird, sort of seeing shapes in here, but maybe this one is more more of the horse idea that we had before. Sort of weird leg shapes. Tail. This. But doing like a steppy almost. Thought maybe this would be a front leg and a back leg, but now that I'm looking at it, it feels more like these are just like one leg sort of bent down, the other one sort of going out. Like got this sort of like almost like a frilled lizard sort of thing. This shape. It's got face in here that's being framed. Sort of frill. Oh. Like one eye. Kind of cool. Sort of weird. So, you know. Yeah, you end up with some interesting stuff if you just constrain yourself to work in a finite space with a limited set of tools and values. And maybe we can even take one of these guys and use it as something we can work on line art and shading with as well. Kind of like this guy. Maybe we mess around more with this last guy. Take that and take that and make something with it, you know? Got this guy, got this sort of sketch of a guy. Still pretty sketch-like. But let's let's practice lining. Let's practice some inking, doing some line art type stuff. So I'm going to take the pressure sensitivity off, and we're just going to try and define the form. We've got this sort of creepy guy. So just let's make some decisions. Some tips for drawing lines. Some basic tips for drawing lines. Try and use as much range of motion as you can. So, you know, if you can use, and you know, this will depend on the size of the page or tablet you're working with, but you know, you get smoother lines the more range of motion you're using. So if you're using your whole, like, if I do like a whole like shoulder stroke like that, do your elbow, and if you're using just your wrist, you know, you get these smaller strokes. That just gonna sort of try and make these sort of smooth, flowy lines. Each sort of change in direction, we get a new line. But we're trying to, you know, instead of going like, you know, little by little, we're gonna try and just define the edge. That And, you know, feel free to use any of your little guys as a base. So what we have here, we're trying to define this form, right? As it's sort of coming towards us out of the neck. So we have these sort of T lines that happen where one form is in front of another. And what you can do, sort of darken that area, thicken up the line there to indicate that this form is in front of this form. I shape. And so we've got this sort of outline, which is a certain thickness. I just went with this thickness. Now that we're working on a shape inside of that outline, we can reduce the line thickness a little bit. So that the outline of the form has more weight to it than the inside. Create sort of a spatial hierarchy. That makes sense. Because here's the thing, when it comes to line art, the world is not outlined. The real world, and again, if this is basic art theory stuff, but it's good. It's always good to remember. We're using lines as an abstraction of form. So when you look at an object in space, you're seeing light and shadow hit that object, define its form in relation to stuff around it. And when we represent that form in two-dimensional space in a drawing, we can paint it. We can just indicate the light and shadow, or we can use these lines to indicate the edges of an object in space. But those lines don't really exist. We are making decisions about how we want to represent these objects. And of course, this guy is fully from our imagination, so even more room to play around with. So we've got sort of this shape, this sort of neck curve shape happening here. And we can extend this line just a little bit in to indicate, again, give that sort of T shape again, and indicate that like the form of this creature, this little bit sort of comes in front. There's a little bit of weight there. Got this leg shape here, another sort of T shape. We can darken that. Don't be afraid to hit undo. I do and undo a lot. Again, just adding a little bit of darkness here indicates that this leg is coming out in front of the body, the form. Sort of comes down to this sort of foot shape, which we haven't really defined. It's just sort of, I guess he's just sort of got these sort of shaped feet. Again, we can have this line taper off. Darken it in here as well. Show that bits are in front of or behind other bits. Similar with this leg shape. Sort of darken this bit here. that bit here at the edges. Sort of going like here. We can adjust it so it more closely matches this other leg. So we can make this part a little thicker, make that part a little thinner. So we workshop what this creature actually looks like. Something like that. You know. So we've got this sort of line art now for this guy. So that's one example. We could try inking another one of our guys as well, as a second example. What other guys do we like? Maybe the bird. Yeah. Do this bird. Do this bird, why not? The jelly bear? Want to do the jelly bear? We can do the jelly bear, sure. Okay. Yeah. We can make some decisions about how we want him to look. Inked. He's a little wonky right now. A little lopsided, but that's okay. That's just sort of what we drew. So we've got this big curve up top. I'm gonna do it in two parts. So, and there's an inking technique called ghosting, where you sort of do a couple practice strokes in the air above where you're actually going to draw. Try and get a sense where you actually go in. And I was on the wrong layer. I was on the wrong layer, guys. Here we go. Try again. Okay. All right. This one around here. Like that. Okay, we did it in 3. We had to do 3 for that one. So again, we can sort of there. And get these curves the way we want them. Again, varying line thickness. Indicate weight, form, and depth. All that stuff. So we've got sort of this bit we could sort of extend like that. Similarly, over here, it sort of looks like we've got this sort of like frilly bit at the bottom. It's like the top sort of comes in front of it on this side, but then it sort of curves away from us over here, and so it's in front over there. Something like that. I don't know. Just messing around with it. His eyes. So let's do the ears first. Let's get the full outline in. So we've got these sort of bear ears, these jelly bear ears up top. Maybe we just have them coming right out of the silhouette rather than being disconnected. Got this one sort of more in front and this one sort of more behind. So maybe we keep the line here to indicate that like he's sort of facing like this, like if we were to define the form a little bit more. maybe we'll just put some guidelines in for that exact purpose. Got this sort of shape like this, and he's sort of like that. So maybe we'll change how the eyes look to more match this shape that we've got going. So maybe the eyes are more sort of like this. Got the nose sort of coming out like that. These lines a little thinner maybe. Once again, we're inside instead of outside. Like this. Add a little bit of darkness in between. Maybe we extend this sort of bit so we can see that, like, sort of resting on top. This part I feel like should be thinner to more match what we're going for. You know, just making adjustments. Doing some design while we ink. You can do that. You're allowed. Make decisions about which bits go in front of which other bits. Maybe the nose sort of sticks out. This like sort of snoot bit sticks out in front of the eyes. So we have parts of the eyes blocked a little bit by it. We've got these tentacles, which we can sort of mess around with now. Sort of have them be a little bit thicker towards the body, and then get thinner, taper off as they leave. And we could even sort of on this part of it, we could indicate sort of an underside of the form a little bit more. This. We darken that in a little bit too. We just darken the whole thing. And like that. Just to indicate that there's more three-dimensionality here. Since he's floating, we can actually go down below this sort of baseline that we drew. Mess around like that a little bit. This one. Yeah. You know. Just messing around. I realize I'm not providing like a ton of instruction. We're just sort of vibing it out, but I think that's okay. You know, the idea is we're just sort of trying to indicate that this thing has mass. It sort of exists in space. Something like that. How's that look? How's that look? It's kind of cool. Probably even go thinner on the eyes lines, but like that. Like this. Could even just try something. Just give him like give him some of these. Indicate that like the eyes are like bulging out a little bit more. I don't know. Yeah, that's how I'd do it. Sort of thicker on the outside, thick around areas that are coming towards us, and thick around areas that you want to indicate are in front of other areas, those T lines. Something like that. Okay. All right, let's move on to shading. Let's do a little shading refresher. And of course, when we talk about shading, we're talking about values, not ethical values, but values of light and shadow. Again, we are trying to communicate the illusion of three-dimensionality using only tools that exist in 2 dimensions. So just as a little refresher, Karina did a fantastic draw class about values. I highly recommend you check it out. If you want a deep dive into that sort of thing, we're gonna stay pretty simple, but just, pick a nice neutral. Here, got our little sphere, little circle. You know what? Sorry. Let's go with the neutral color for the background. Then we'll make it a lighter color. This here. It's your circle. So we've got this here 2-dimensional circle shape. But imagine if it were a sphere. And imagine we have a light source that is acting upon this sphere. Just one light source. We've got the sphere sitting on a surface. We'll say the light source is coming from here. So what we have is the section of this object that is being lit because the light is hitting the planes. And then we have as the planes of the object recede from the light, turn away from the light, we get this sort of shadow zone. So in its most simple, just sort of two-tone, we've got light and we've got shadow. Of course, we've got some anti-aliasing. Just by adding this little tone, we've already indicated that this 2-dimensional ball has form. Because there's light, and there's shadow. There's where the light touches the form and where it is obscured by the form. And there are two types of shadow. There's form shadow, so the shadow that is created where the form of the object is not facing the light source. And then there is cast shadow, which is where the light is not hitting a surface because there is something blocking it. So this sphere would be casting a shadow as well. Something like that. So at its most basic, we've got this light zone and this shadow zone. Typically, within those zones, there's gradation, and that's sort of where this is sort of where you as the artist get to make decisions about how much you want to communicate. So, you know, typically, depending on, say, the material that this sphere is made of, it's a very shiny material, there might be a very bright single highlight where the light's hitting it, and that already is communicating more about what this thing is made of. But you know, if it's a more matte material, you can go in, say we're in this still sort of light range, but we want to indicate a little bit more depth. We can add another, oops, and add another sort of zone within the light zone, but it's not as direct. It's sort of as the plane of this shape is starting to turn away from the light isn't hitting it as strongly, right? And similarly, in the shadow, light reflects off of surfaces. There's bounce light. So there's this part here that would be the darkest, where there's no light hitting any surface. But then as light passes around the object, you get a little bit of this sort of bounce light. Be a little bit lighter than the shadow tone that we have. We can indicate that just sort of going like this. A little bit of bounce light, a little bit of reflected light. I might have made that a little too light. Adjust. We can make adjustments. And then we have this little area here where the form shadow and the cast shadow meet. We have this area of occlusion, and that's typically going to be the darkest shadow that we have. And that's similarly what we were trying to do with our line art before, when we have these T shapes where one object is passing in front of another one. We get these areas of occlusion where, you know, if an object is lit from above, it has the part of it that's in shadow and the shadow that it's casting, and that's the typically you can thicken the lines up there to indicate that that is like a very dark area, and that's how those forms are interacting that that makes sense. So that's sort of like a very basic breakdown of value. And we can observe it. You know, we don't have to just think about it in our imagination. I have some examples that we can do some light and shadow studies of. You know, this is a very basic version of this, and again, like there are much more detailed descriptions of of this. You can find more knowledgeable people to talk about this, but this is sort of a basic idea. You've got planes that exist in space, and depending on where your light source is, they're either going to be lighter or darker in relation to that. So, you know, we've got, for example, we've got these basic shapes, and you can see that we can see pretty clearly where the light source is. You can see it most easily on this ball. So it's not even above. Its light is sort of here. So the light source is really sort of coming at it from this sort of low side angle. You can see on these curved surfaces, it's more gradual, but there is still like a pretty clear marker of where it stops being this gradual darkness, and it's like, okay, no more light is hitting the object. The form has turned away. These planes are all no longer facing the light. And then, of course, on these flat planed objects, you can see, like, you know, the sides that are facing the light source are much lighter than the sides that are not. And it looks on this cube almost like let's see, we can sort of, and it's a little difficult with the wood grain, but it looks almost like this. I guess they're about the same value. They're just slightly different colors. Yeah. So it really, there's no angle. It's really coming at it flat. Flat from the side here. So we can, you know, if you want, we can take a sec and draw these forms. You know, just take a little, draw this here, your pyramid shape. Light side. The shadow side. Pretty straightforward. Here, cylinder, do similar idea. Cheating, I'm using the straight line, holding shift. Easier to draw straight lines on a digital, in a digital drawing program, but you get the idea. ourselves and make a clipping mask so we can indicate where got sort of this plane up top is in shadow, then well as this bit over here in shadow. Within that, indicate more gradation we want. Again, you can see there is a bit of reflected light back there where it's not quite as dark. There's a little bit of reflected light up here as well. Just sort of adding those little bits in. Give it a little bit of form. Got just a little bit gradation here as well. You know, something like that. Mess around with it. And the more you observe objects in different lighting, the more natural it will be to sort of come up with an abstraction. But we can look at some more complicated forms. We don't just have to use basic shapes. Of course, you know me. I love an animal drawing. So we can look at this here elephant, and we can break it down into just its values. So I'm just going to go ahead and desaturate this. And I'm going to increase the contrast between the lights and shadows. And so we can get a sense of where the light source is and what the form is. So we have these very light bits here sort of on the top. So it looks like the light source is sort of coming from the top and this side. So we can sort of sketch that in if we want. You know, don't have to be too precious with how accurate we are, but you know me, I just love to draw an elephant. I just enjoy drawing an elephant, so I thought we could. Too big. I make it too big, the elephant. Sort of get basic shapes in. Doesn't have to. Just for practice. Just to practice the values. Got some really good examples of both form and cast shadow here as well. Like this ear, for example, is doing a really good cast shadow. Tusk is even lower than I drew it. It's got long heads. Something like that. So we've got this sort of form, elephantine form. So we're just a little. Again, it's okay. It's all good. Just a little practice. Just a little practice. We're just practicing here. It's chill. It is chill to practice drawing. Something like that. Fill it in. We can just map out the lights and the shadows. We can even color pick, you know? Pick a value. It's pretty dark. It's like that's black basically. I don't need it to be quite that dark. Let's go with that. And just sort of indicate where we see these shadows taking place. This cast shadow from the ear. This form shadow. The back of the trunk, and then we have this cast shadow from the tusk that sort of goes across. Sort of see the back of the trunk is in shadow, and then the amount that's in shadow increases as it goes down because the light is above. Got a little shadow that forms for the, sort of the eye socket. A bit more cast shadow on the front here. Got this shadow forms behind the leg. This leg is in shadow. It's looks like it's being blocked by sort of the front of the elephant. This leg is completely in shadow here. This one just sort of back here. It's a nice belly shape form happening. You start to see the form come together just by having a little bit of understanding of value, where the light source is, creates this sort of elephant shape. You can even see it in the background as well, because the light is coming from above. It's illuminating the ground. Let's see. Spit. Even use these same light and shadow colors background as well. Sort of plane where ground is, which is very similar in tone. This part up here is very dark. It's like shadow being cast from the trees. It also, the cast shadow from the elephant is making on the ground. And, you know, you can go in and mess around with midtones a little bit. sort of thing. And we sort of did this when I was doing my digital painting draw class as well. This sort of breaking down what we see into just lights and shadows, the way to as a way to understand form a little better. So if we go back to our put that guy, go back to this guy. So we want to shade him. Have similar idea. So little mid-tone for the background. We can decide on a light source, let's say. Keep it easy on ourselves. Lights. Then we have the shadows. We can just see, you know, sort of where we imagine the light would be hitting, where the planes are on our friend, where we would indicate shadows would be. Got this sort of shape here. Shape sort of sticking out. That. Maybe the eyeballs are bulging. Of like a cast shadow that they're making. You say these bits here. Also creating a bit of a shadow over top of the eyes. And the eyes themselves are bulging out, so they have a little bit, would be in shadow as well. Again, we can go in with reflected light back here. Put a little bit more depth. Let's do something similar with the midtones. You know, give it a little bit of depth, you know? If we want to say like he's a real shiny guy, we can give it these sort of sharp highlights as well. But let's say we have a different light source, right? We can do it different. Maybe he's being lit from behind. Being lit from back here, and it's also coming from behind a little bit. How would that be different? But all of this shadow, that sort of changes the mood a little bit as well. Makes it look a little bit more ominous. So as the person making the drawing, you can use light, you know, you can be purely observational, you know, if you're just drawing from life, but if you're creating something whole cloth, you as the artist can decide, you know, what sort of vibes am I going for? What sort of mood am I trying to create? Do I want it to look a little eerie? We put our subject in shadow instead of in light. Changes the mood a little bit. Yeah, it makes them a little more scary. Makes sense. And again, I'm just using I haven't even gotten into like blending or any of that stuff. I work very sort of cartoony. So I like these hard edges. I like just using flat colors for my shading. But you know, if you want to get more advanced, you can certainly get into hard and soft edges and that sort of thing. The last thing you see before you're jellied. Does that all make sense? Is that working for everybody? We've got like 20 minutes left. Does anyone have any questions? Anything you'd like me to go back over? Anything you'd like to do for the last 20 minutes? Oh, thank you, Kirby. I'm glad this helps. I have more animal drawings. We could just do some more practice shading from those. If feel like something that was missing has been filled in and you get some stuff, that's awesome. That's it's really nice to hear, actually. I never know how helpful these are, but yeah, it's never I feel like just going over the basics is helpful for everyone. Like it doesn't matter if you've never heard it before, I'm sure it's helpful, but even if you've heard it a million times before, just like remembering, oh yeah, that's what we're doing here. You weren't drawing because you were at work, but you've stored up all the info, and you shall test the next time you open up CSP. That's awesome. Yeah, and it definitely. Let me check the Discord. Feel free to share anything. Oh, people drawing their jelly bears. Oh my gosh, some great stuff. Well, thanks for sharing, everybody. I love that. Yeah, never hurts to just go back over the basics. Again, like what we're doing with drawing is lying, right? We're pretending that something that we've created in 2 dimensions is a 3-dimensional thing. And so we are using tools that we have available to trick the person viewing it into believing that what they are seeing is a representation of a 3-dimensional thing and not just colors and lines and shapes. And so the way you do that is by observing the 3-dimensional world and noticing the way that we see things and how we can represent those things. We get edges, how we see forms contrasting with one another. And then your job as an artist is to represent that and then also help the person who is viewing your art understand what you want them to look at and how you want them to feel about that. And yeah, so there's decision making that goes into that. You don't have to be 100% accurate. In fact, oftentimes you want to be maybe misrepresenting stuff for better visual clarity. For example, our elephant drawing here, right? Like and go back in. I actually really like how this turned out. Maybe it's just because I really like drawing elephants, but you can really go in and just work it as much as you want, as much shading, as much detailing as you feel like. Sort of trunk ridges they have. Sorts of lines, shadows. Form, wrinkly. It's like sort of eyelid it has here, sort of thing. And really get into the weeds. Wrinkles. A lot of really good shapes on an elephant. It's even like, see that like top here, bit of lights hitting the top, little bit of form shadow that's happening, and then really bright right in the middle. It's interesting. Oh. Some tones in the background as well. Sort of rock shapes. Yeah, let's do another one. Let's do another animal. That one felt good. Got time. Got time. Do another animal. Another animal breakdown. Light and shadow. The elephant again. What else we got? Here's a nice example of an animal that's like almost entirely in shadow. The background is very light. Again, we just sort of go desaturate it, increase the contrast, sort of backlit. Creates this very sort of moody shape. It's got this like sort of ridge here. It really like outlines just sort of present themselves. Got this very sort of light background. It's a very sort of dark form. Too dark. Fit in. Too precious with how it looks. This sort of deer or antelope shaped animal. skinny. Sort of here. Yeah, like that. It's sort of light again. Sort of here. Just at the edge. It's like sort of fuzzy bit. It's up and moves. So you have shadow as well. This thing sort of bit. It's coming from very sort of subtle indications here. Top of the eye thing. Subtle. Takes all kinds. All sorts of different. Got this. It's casting a shadow up here, but that's a nice little bit of composition as well. It's a rock forms and mess around. I highly recommend this style of digital painting, value, practice, whatever you want to call it, as a way to not only practice drawing from observation, but also to practice shading, breaking forms down into just lights and shadows in their most basic sense. Can you some highlights in there? Really make it pop. There, here, stand up just a little bit from the background. That oh. When I see the animal. Yeah, wow, that sort of flew by. You know, you can really, I mean, that thumbnailing game just I feel like that really helps you warm up the visual creative side of your brain, just looking at some nonsense shapes and lines and trying to create forms and shapes out of those. And then you can give those forms give them depth. With shadows. And oh, Xandru Bird, I'm very excited to see what you come up with in the thumbnail game. Once again, shout out to Draw Sessions for that idea. So truly, so many incredible resources online for people who want to get better at drawing. Artists are very generous with their knowledge and their expertise, and I highly recommend channels like Draw Sessions, channels like Proco, they're just go to YouTube, type in whatever thing you want to work on, and you know, line art practice or shading practice or digital painting practice or whatever. There are resources out there, and I'm just happy to be here and be a buddy while you practice, But you don't need me for that. But I'm happy to encourage. Back to this elephant. And then sometimes you might end up in your practice session end up making something you really like. You want to keep working on. And that's the best case scenario. You end up turning your practice into actual piece you want to keep working on. Uh, I just encourage anyone who's on the fence about drawing, just try any of the things we did today and see if that makes it seem a little less daunting. That's the main thing I want, is for people not to feel intimidated by drawing. I know I mean, and that's something I struggle with as well. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing it. Sometimes it just, if you have something specific in mind you're trying to create and it's just not working, it can be discouraging. But you can always go back and try something else. Just mess around. Have a little mess around. A little mess about. Uh, and yeah, please continue to share your work. And thank you again for supporting Drawfee. If you're watching live, and if you're watching the VOD, hey, if you want to join in live next time, it's we announce every month what the DrawClass topic is going to be. So you can decide month to month whether you feel like it'd be worth it to you to tune in live. Oh, that's good advice, Cheesy. Yeah, if you feel confused by the different levels of grayscale and feel like it blends together too much, you can assign them a different color. Um, and that if that makes it easier to visualize, that for sure could work as well. Yeah, like that. Um, yeah, I mean that's basically it. We feel free to keep drawing. I might do that. I gotta go eat lunch. I missed lunchtime, so I'm gonna have a late lunch. But thank you all so much for being here. And yeah. Till next time, everybody. Happy drawing. Happy weekend. Happy Halloween. Ooh. By the time this VOD comes up, it'll be way past Halloween. Ooh. Whoa. Yeah. Good stuff. Oh yeah, new episode. Yeah, a rare Thursday draw class because it was not available tomorrow. So, like that. Like that. I'm just vamping now. But I had fun. I hope you did too. And if you're ever feeling stuck, try some of this stuff. Give it a whirl. All right. Bye bye, everybody. Sorry.